Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Bank of Ireland, a proud sponsor of Irish rugby. Never stop competing.
You're welcome back. Sene Naoupu is with us in studio. Sene, basically straight from the airport.
Oh, hello to you, Eve. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. Literally straight from the airport.
That's unbelievable, because I was wondering what is the kind of the geographical situation in your life right now. I'm not sure if you heard the very top of the show, but it was, I'm not sure, was it a Freudian slip or was it the absolutely correct thing to say? I was like, Sene is home this weekend. But I guess your home is here, home is New Zealand. Home is in both of these places, right?
Thank you. I 100% consider Ireland to be home, and I hope people don't mind, but certainly, yeah, home is Ireland, obviously, but my homeland is New Zealand, you know, first generation New Zealand born Samoan Irish.
Yeah.
Is what I always refer myself as, so it's good to be back, and conscious I didn't have a contingency because that flight straight here, reliable, Aer Lingus.
So talk us through your schedule over the next few days. You're obviously back in New Zealand with an unbelievable job, which we'll get into in just a moment, but this is a real flying visit over the next few days.
Yeah, it is. It's it's a chance to connect with a good few colleagues that I've worked with over a number of years, friends and those sorts of things, and I'll be doing a bit of a handover from now throughout the week. We've got some wonderful visitors from the USA, friends from the NFL coming in tomorrow, friends from France as well, from New Zealand, the whole bunch of friends and colleagues that are coming to Ireland this week. There's a game on Friday night that they might pop down to as well. So it just worked out well that I've used this week to be my handover week for the year, and that Ireland-New Zealand game would be a pretty special final sort of game for the year.
I can imagine. So you're CEO of North Otago Rugby Union. How did this come about?
Firstly, honestly, Eoin, this show is unbelievable, and all the guests you have on, it's just awesome. And for you to say North Otago Rugby on this show in Ireland means an awful lot. That's a privilege to hear you say that. It's such a small province in New Zealand, one of the 26 provinces and one of the 12 across the heartland. And it's actually my home province. It's where I grew up, where I sort of first saw rugby as a young girl, watching my brother having Ranfurly Shields. I'm not sure if anyone knows in Ireland, but they're pretty big deals over here. They're a bit like, Mail for Sam's type thing in New Zealand. But my experiences as a young girl, kind of being exposed to that, started in North Otago Rugby. So it's been a 15-year journey abroad. On a personal perspective, I originally came as a supportive rugby wife. Yeah. And I'm really grateful, very privileged to then return as a sharpened rugby chief.
So I don't know very much about the province at all. I know that Dunedin is in the province, and that's probably the biggest city there. Tell us a little bit more about what it was like growing up there and the sporting culture there in particular.
In those days, definitely bare feet in the backyard. It's quite normal. It's quite normal in some cases now, but we didn't have technology. We didn't have any social media back then, so all we did for our amusement and fun is just play sports outside. So it was pretty outdoorsy upbringing. Grew up in a small community as well. I remember my childhood being fun, just full of sports, full of culture. My first sort of performances in front of people and community was when I was 6 years old as part of a Pacific Island community group. So I kind of got that taste of, being on stage and those sorts of things. And, it was I was very lucky considering it could have been the other way, given, I think a few people know, single mother and all that stuff, but it was actually awesome.
That buzz of performing in those community performances, does that transfer over to sport pretty easily when you were a kid?
Great question. I think it did. Just in terms of familiarity, I loved basketball growing up. So, in a small town, everyone would come to watch our basketball games. The sidelines would be packed and we'd just be kids running around. And it's kind of like you're performing. It's not like you're playing sport, and I loved it.
At what point does rugby become a central part of your life? in New Zealand?
In my transition to tertiary education, yeah.
Right.
So still basketball right up until like 17, 18.
And it was at that point that you pick up a rugby ball for the first time, or in a kind of an organised sense?
In an organised sense, yeah. I was pretty conscious that, not conscious, I was pretty adamant. It was quite clear I wanted to be an athlete as a young girl. I really wanted to play sport at the highest level. And at the time, while I loved basketball, really grateful to get some tours to Australia as well for some age grade Koru New Zealand teams and all that, and being part of an academy and things. The rugby pathways are a bit better in terms of the next step, whereas basketball was often a little bit harder to be seen when you're in sort of a smaller South Island town compared to North Island big cities.
When it comes to the fact that you're now CEO, obviously, of North Otago Rugby Football Union, what did that organisation look like when you were a kid? Was it something that you were very familiar with? I mean, I'm trying to kind of connect these dots now, this incredible full circle moment in your life, which it kind of feels like.
Thanks, Owen. North Otago Rugby was the province that my brother would have played for.
Right.
Yeah, when I was, a little girl, I'd go over with my family, and the whole town, the whole community would fill the stadium, Centennial Park back in the day, and just watch, the local team play. And my brother was number 10. So he was kind of reminded me of like a Carlos Spencer type Marcus Smith style, And the whole town got behind them. That energy and the environment that they had was incredible. A lot of the team would come back to my mum's house as well.
Right.
So like in terms of the community sense, social impact as well that it had on our township, all of the wonderful benefits of rugby, that was what I grew up in terms of that social connection. There was a Ranfurly game, 93, when Auckland came down to challenge North Otago, or likely North Otago tried to challenge Auckland, and we had superstars like, Auckland had superstars like Xavier Tama, Ronnie Clark, Xavier Sumaku Jones, Waisake Situtu, so Hoskins' dad. We had like all the superstars that you'd see their sons play now in the international team. So it was pretty surreal as a young girl. And there's this really cool photo, actually. We were talking about it the other day because when they came down, my mum invited them to our kind of community group to kind of engage with us, and they were fantastic for coming. And there's this big photo, and all the heroes are there, Auckland, North Otago as well, our community group, and I'm the small little girl with an autograph book at the front of the photo, like kind of just on the side. And I think it didn't hit me how important of a milestone in general. If it wasn't me, if it was another Pacific Island woman CEO, it didn't hit me in terms of how important in general it was to have that moment and to achieve something like this until Xavier Tami, Ronnie Clark rang me, and he was speaking on the phone just how overjoyed, and he was incredibly emotional, and then it made me emotional. And then that was the full circle as well because he was in that photo.
Wow.
Yeah. And Sumaku Jones as well. All of those guys who are my heroes, they're just, we're connecting, working together now. It's quite hard to articulate. There's obviously that sense in the New Zealand-born Samoan, and then there's the sense from an Irish perspective where I haven't even told him this, but obviously a few years ago, there was a time where I had the privilege of learning and working for Brian O'Driscoll, for example, when he was on the ERT board, those sorts of things. So Conrad Smith and those guys. So there's a whole nother full circle piece, not just that moment there from a full circle community back to New Zealand, but certainly from a, full circle in that I grew up going to university and on the World Cups, I would always select Brian O'Driscoll as my 13, and Conrad would actually be on the bench.
Right.
Never told them that, but it was funny because everyone else in the staff would be like, "Oh, you're not choosing All Blacks," and I was like, "Oh, no, I'll definitely put Bod there."
Well, believe it or not, Conrad was sitting where you were about 12 hours ago. He was in that seat. So that also today has come full circle in this studio. There's so many interesting things about what you said there. Kind of sounds like your mom was the de facto CEO of the rugby union down there for a little while.
She's now the advisory governance lady there now for me, and everyone. Yeah, she's a bit of a hero. She is my auntie as well, and certainly that's actually a main reason as to why I needed to see how can I get back closer to being near my mother, and just help her out. I mean, these days. I'm very lucky to have a parent around. I know there's some that don't. They're not getting any younger. And from a values perspective, at the end of the day, you kind of put first what comes first in your life. And family for me has always been everything. So it's just such a joy. I'm just so grateful that an opportunity like that had come up, and I didn't even think I'd get an interview. There's some wonderful quality people there. Colin Jackson, the CEO as well for the last 20 years. He's been doing a super job. Got to connect with the Otago CEO, Rich Kinley, and Roger Clark as well, the Highlander CEO. So we've got a really cool team, Southland as well, just in terms of our lower South Island region. All of the other provinces, Mid-Canterbury, South Canterbury, Canterbury, they're great as well, Tasman. But yeah, in terms of also.
So would I be right in saying that the rugby union may not have had women's and girls teams when you were growing up, but now at this point you would absolutely be able to further that and oversee the development and the growth of the women's teams that do exist now?
There was a team.
There was, okay.
That was my first team.
Right.
I was 13 years old when I played for the Whitestone 45ers, which was actually the North Otago team, North Otago women's team back in the day. There's been challenges just in terms of, solidifying those pathways, but now there is. So, okay. There's some good programs we've, had a look at, certainly good few important pieces of work to do. I've been in New Zealand for the last 5 or so weeks, 5.5 weeks, if not a little bit longer. I was very, very keen to make sure I had a look at the Heartland Games, senior games, age grade games, connect with all the coaches, players, teams, clubs, all of my stakeholder engagements. I just wanted to get that in early. Sponsors, I got to meet all the sponsors, all sorts of wonderful community groups. In New Zealand, very different to Ireland, but in terms of where we are geographically, it was really important for me to meet with the iwi of the South Island. So when you do the haka, they will announce on terms of the land that they are performing on. But for me, it was really important that I did meet with the Te Runanga o Moeraki and the Ngai Tahu, which is the South Island iwi, to serve in partnership and ask for their permission to serve on the land.
Right. Had that been done before?
Nah, it wouldn't have been. It like people will think, oh, that's a bit hard out, but that's me. As in I was conscious to serve in collaboration with some really important key groups that we need to serve in partnership on that land, and also met with the Omudu Pacific Trust. So there's a huge contingent. We're actually the fastest growing Pacific Island community in New Zealand outside of Auckland.
Right.
And then across all the age grades, for example, from the grassroots right up to the top, teams in black, you average about 40% of the teams being Pacific Island Māori. Yeah. So there's a whole lot of cultural capacity within that area that I really wanted to lead and do that from the start. So, yeah, I've done all that kind of stakeholder engagement. We've prepared 26 is a mihi whakatoa, which is like a welcome that they'll have. So in that process, it was just really important for me to engage with, all the community groups, and I'll see more of them certainly when I head back. But just so I can immerse again in my hometown. We've had some conferences as well with New Zealand Rugby. Those have been great, just sitting there listening, learning. across the sort of sustainability and strategy pieces. So, it's been good. It's been busy every day and conscious to do some bits, meet some people, listen and learn. So then when I go back, I'm straight in, feet under the desk, 18th of November, ready to go, let's go.
That's really amazing, because obviously there is going to be a big focus in your job, which is just encouraging the growth of rugby and hoping that enough kids get to play the game, but actually playing a part in building bridges on a cultural level and actually bringing the community together and using sport for kind of what sport is meant to do, which is bringing people together. It's kind of amazing, and it's brilliant to hear that that's already happened on your watch. It's not something that I even considered asking you about, but to hear that is just such a powerful thing in terms of what you can do in that role.
Thank you, Eoin. And I must pay huge tribute to all of the wonderful communities and clubs and all of the stakeholders across sort of Irish rugby from the grassroots up. Because I've obviously been overseas for a number of years, 15 altogether, some of it in Japan and the UK, but mostly Ireland. And I've learned a heck of a lot, about how things are done in Ireland. Some are fantastic, some need work, which is fine. But I've seen the backbone of sport in most countries, which are the volunteers and parents and coaches. I've seen the different interactions. I've seen the fastest growth areas, which are the rural communities in Ireland for most part. Obviously, Metro is also a fast area. But I've got to kind of immerse and learn across that stakeholder group. So I did want to, just say a big thank you to those guys. I've been really fortunate to be exposed to that. And that has actually helped shape my personal and professional development as well, because a lot of this role in sport in general, let alone rugby, certainly from the province I'm from, which is slightly smaller than the others, being a leader of that organisation, you're as much as a community developer as you are, a lead of a rugby union. So right. For me, they work together. There's a really important role rugby plays in the social connection, mental well-being, physical activity, economy-wise in New Zealand. Lots of families have lost their jobs. Some have got new jobs. So where does rugby sit into that? There's a whole bunch of reasons as to why rugby as a sport is Aotearoa New Zealand's DNA. So just got to make sure that there's a really, sustainable piece to work from, build on the strong legacy that Colin Jackson, who has been the CEO for the last 2 decades, and he's a great guy, a wonderful guy. So he's there till the 22nd of November. So we do that handover week together, and we have his farewell on the 22nd. So that'll be a sad day for all of North Otago, but also, looking forward to building on his work and to help future-proof, the next few years, certainly. It's North Otago's 100th anniversary in a few years' time, and we're also building a new stadium. Okay. So there's a lot happening at the moment.
It's a baptism of fire.
Baptism of fire, but good targets in terms of, those few years to hopefully play in that new stadium.
Was it hard to leave Europe?
Yeah, it was. Oh, yeah. Yes and no. Sorry. Yes and no. I have so many wonderful friends that have become family for me here. And, Jesus, I didn't think I was going to get emotional.
You're all right.
I've been really grateful to just properly immerse myself from since moving here, first in Galway, some wonderful families, communities, friends there. Then obviously in Dublin, I've been just incredibly grateful to everyone that I've ever engaged with. And I do want to say a huge thank you to anyone I've ever come across in my journey throughout Ireland. It wasn't always easy, as I think people knew the last few years. But I was really conscious. I wanted to make sure I left Ireland when the women's game is in a great place. Still grateful to be on the advisory for Irish Rugby for the women's game. So they've been fantastic support. Kevin Potts and Niall and the guys have been awesome support. They were super happy when they heard. So, I made sure I rang everyone dropped some emails as well before the release went out and then after. But I genuinely want to send my heartfelt gratitude to everyone, including yourself, on this show. Like, even thank you for giving me this opportunity to...
You've come straight from the airport. The gratitude is all ours.
No, but I do. I'm just thanks for giving me the space to say thanks to everyone who's ever engaged, or who I have engaged with. They've made a difference in my life, and I will carry all of that wherever I go, and certainly in this next phase of my life as a CEO.
So I have to ask you, Eimear Considine has hung up her international boots today. I mean, talking about an emotional goodbye, what will the Ireland team do without her?
Oh, the mama bear is gone. She texted me today. I messaged her, and it was actually quite emotional just texting her. She'll be a huge loss.
Yeah.
What a proper inspiration she is in general.
You were her roommate.
Yes, we were roomies from back in the development days. We had our first sevens tournament in Dubai, so we kept together for sevens. Many a sort of times in the room when she'd be on the phone to Dean when they were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time, and now they're a son and married. She's an inspiration. She really those last games in Canada, especially the New Zealand game, that back three were not talked about enough. There's Stacey Flood, Eimear Considine, and Emily Murphy-Crowe. Obviously, Baven and a good few of the girls were out, but those three were outstanding together. And the way that she just, inspired the group in general in terms of how she is as a person and mother and player, was fantastic to see. We were messaging about, she won't mind me saying this at all, but we were messaging about how hard it is, how in some ways brutally hard it is to do whatever it takes to leave on your own terms. I've been there. Yeah, I've been there. That was the lowest in terms of my personal perspective at that time. Got through it and managed to leave on their own terms. And for Eimear to come back from injury, to come back after being a super busy mother, teacher, wife, daughter, all those sorts of things in all her roles, and to come back, beat New Zealand, sign off.
That's it. It's a proper mic drop, isn't it? Because
how good.
The last couple of years haven't been easy for the team, and all of a sudden you've been instrumental in terms of bringing this team right back up to the top table and bringing them back to the World Cup. And she obviously scored a try against the Wallaroos, and I'm sure it must have been difficult for her to say, listen, things are going really well now. Now's my time to exit stage left. So, yeah, she's going to be a huge loss, an unbelievable career, and I'm sure we're going to catch up with her at some point over the next little while as for a career retrospective. So this weekend, Sene, I think you're only here for about 5 days. Is this just one massive goodbye to Ireland party? Is that what's happening here over the next few days?
I didn't expect this to happen. I mean, it's your testament to you giving the space. Jeez.
What is the plan? You're obviously going to the game on Friday.
Yeah, we'll go to the game.
Who's going to win?
Oh, straight and hot, going in hot, is it?
Yeah.
Can we talk about the coaches?
Yeah, we can, of course.
Yeah, Andrew Goodman versus his former coaching buddy.
That's right.
Scotty Robinson.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really interested to see how that goes, because we all know how incredible the players are. I would safely compare Wallace Satiti to our Wafer. Yeah,
the two best back rows in the world right now.
Yeah, and I would throw it out there that those two names need to be a breakthrough player of the year.
Very hard to disagree with you. I accidentally let the words all-time great fall out of my mouth yesterday when talking about Wallace Satiti. I think in New Zealand you need to be very careful in terms of projecting somebody's career ahead of them. But boy, he looks good. He's
a special player, isn't he? Born in Scotland as well. Braveheart. Yeah, his dad, Samuel Satiti, I remember growing up, was the captain for Mana Samoa.
Right.
So he's obviously of the DNA that is of a natural physical presence and skill factor, X factor. A lot of the players obviously revolve around him. I'm not sure if it was said enough that, a lot of the go forward on the gain lines, and the way he was able to give that offload off the ground to the bench players coming on and giving their impact was pretty impressive to watch. So, yeah, that'll be interesting. Good battle. as
Yeah.
well, back rows against, your Caelan Dorises and our boys too for Ireland. If you ask me straight out, obviously I'm grateful for NZR for this. Love the All Blacks and the history and the DNA of the All Blacks for sure. I will go with Ireland.
Very good. That's what we'd like to hear. Did you see Wallace Atiti's interview after the England game?
Oh, look, yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brilliant. So he's got charisma, can speak in a couple of languages, obviously, and it just looks like he's going to be a brilliant player. So probably already is. Sene, a pleasure to catch up with you. We are unfortunately completely out of time, but welcome home. Welcome home to one of your homes. And enjoy this next week. It's going to be a whirlwind, no doubt. Best of luck with everything, and thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Owen.
Cheers.
Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Bank of Ireland, a proud sponsor of Irish rugby. Never stop competing.